Two houses in Connecticut, same price, same year built, same size. One costs you $400 a month more to own. Same money, different town. And the listing doesn't mention it. I'm Dave Jones with Dave Jones Realty. 3 towns I'd put my money in under $500,000. And the third one is on the water with the lowest tax bill on the whole list. Let's get right into it. First up, Southbury. Southbury sits right on I-84 in the western part of New Haven County. It's about 20 minutes from where I sit recording this right now, and it's one of those towns people drive through constantly without ever really taking a minute to look at it. And you should take a minute to look at it. While you're there, pop into Local Gourmet and check out. It's one of my favorite sandwich shops there. Awesome fresh food, but that's exactly why it's still worth looking at. And I mean that literally. I've driven through Southbury more times than I can count going somewhere else for years. You actually have to drive through there to get to New York. It's kind of the place that doesn't announce itself. It just sits there quietly. There's no moment where you come around a bend and a town shows off. You have to get off the road and you have to go look. And a lot of people don't do that. And before I give you the numbers, you should know what I'm actually looking at because it isn't just the sticker price. There's 3 things: the monthly carry, not the purchase price. Whether the town's assessment is current or about to reset, that's the one that nobody knows about and it ends up biting a lot of people, but I'll get to that. And whether the price has already made its run. If the town went up 20% last year, I'm not that excited about it. You missed it. I want the town that hasn't jumped like that yet. That's what I run for every person when I sit down before they get attached to a single house. The purchase price is the advertisement. The monthly number is the truth. I'll also say this list is not the 3 cheapest towns in Connecticut. Cheapest usually means something's wrong and the market has already figured out what. Towns don't stay affordable because something's wrong with them. Sometimes they stay affordable because not enough people have bothered to look there. Those are the ones worth your time, and they don't stay that way forever. They usually end up getting discovered. I'd also say this about the $400 a month gap that I opened with, because Southbury is a live example of it. There are towns 25 minutes from Southbury where the identical house costs you $400 or $500 a month more to hold. It's not a better house. It's the same house. You're just paying a different town for the privilege to live there. You've got the Housatonic River running along the western edge. You've got Southford Falls, which is one of the prettier state parks in this part of the state. And most people who live 30 minutes away have never been there. You got to change that. You've got real land, lots that are actually lots, not the 10 feet between you and the neighbors type of lot. The median sales price in Southbury last year was $375,000. That's for the whole town. That's the middle of the market, not some outlier near the bottom of it. Now, here's the part that gets me. That number went down from the year before. It's down 3.8% from $390,000 the year before, while almost every other town in Connecticut went up. But I want you to be careful here because I don't want you to hear that as bad news about Southbury. It is not. Southbury didn't get worse. Southbury just didn't get discovered while everything else was being over-discovered. That's a completely different thing. And if you're the one buying, this is the whole opportunity. The mill rate in Southbury is 24.2. At that median home price, the estimated property tax bill will be $6,352 a year. That is a $529 a month tax bill. $529 in a town that's 20 minutes off 84, land, New Haven County. I had buyers looking at towns half an hour away that would pay twice that. And I'll tell you, the thing about Southbury that doesn't show up in any number, it's the location on the map. You're on 84, so Waterbury's right there. Danbury's right there. If you have to get down to Fairfield County for work, you can. You're close to New York. You're not landlocked. A lot of towns that give you this kind of land and that kind of tax bill, they ultimately make you pay for it. Southbury mostly doesn't. It also has a lot of big box stores. There's a Stop and Shop there. You don't have to drive 3 towns over to get your groceries. That's the whole reason I would buy there. It's the rare town where the number's low and you don't give up anything to get it. And I'll give you a version of this that I've actually watched happen. I've had somebody working with me for a year that was set on a town, don't want to give its name, but about 25 minutes east of Southbury. Nice name, better known, kind of town where people have heard of it and the word has been out about it. The houses were comparable, the same size, the same age, the same amount of land, give or take. The tax bill on the one they wanted was a little over $11,000 a year. Southbury was $7,000. That's roughly $400 a month forever for a house that was not meaningfully better. And when I laid the two side by side for them, it wasn't a hard conversation. It took about 90 seconds. My client ended up buying in Southbury, and the thing they told me afterwards that stuck with me was they never would have looked at it because nobody had ever mentioned it to them. Not once. It just was not on the list. It just didn't show up. That's most of what I do, honestly. It's not finding some secret house. It's getting the right towns onto your list before they're on everybody else's list. All right, now I have to explain the assessment thing because it's the reason half of the tax math people do on their own is wrong. And it's going to change how you look at the next two towns. Here's how it works in Connecticut. Every town has to do a reevaluation of all the properties. It is supposed to happen every 5 years. That's the law. It doesn't always happen every 5 years. But when they do reevaluate, the town sends somebody out. They drive by and they come up with a new value for your home. Now, they don't actually go in your house, so they're not looking at it and seeing all the upgrades. So it's kind of like a guesstimate. So think about what that means in between. If a town reevaluated 5 years ago, the assessment on that house is 5 years old. Based on what has happened in Connecticut, I think we know the last 5 years, the prices have skyrocketed, and we all know what happens. The assessment is sitting way, way under what the house is actually worth, which means the tax bill looks super cheap. And it is cheap, right up until the town reevaluates. And then the assessment jumps to catch up with reality. What the town usually does is it lowers the mill rate to help even it out so you don't get that huge 40% spike. But now here's why this matters to you specifically. When you're looking at a listing and you see the current taxes, you're looking at whatever the assessment was back then. We don't know when they reassessed. It's a good question worth asking. You are not looking at what you'll pay in 3 years, and nobody in the transaction is going to volunteer that to you. So the question I ask every single town is a simple one. When did you last reevaluate? Because a town that reevaluated this year, the number's real. It's going to be close to that for the next 5 years. It's fresh. It's built on what the house actually sold for now. There's no reset waiting for you. And a town that hasn't reevaluated in 4 years, 5 years, sometimes 7 years, that number's a little bit of a fantasy. It's going to go up, and we don't know where it's going to land. So here's what I'm going to do for you. Get on a Zoom with me. Tell me your budget, how you actually live, where you actually work, how far you're willing to drive, what you need close by, what the deal breakers are, and I'll come back with towns that I think are a great fit for you with real monthly numbers, costs, and expenses. You'll know more in 30 minutes than you would for 3 months of scrolling listings at midnight or working with an agent that doesn't do that for you. That's what my team here at Dave Jones Realty does. Click the link down below and book an appointment with us. I'll give you my own house as an example because I'd rather use mine than somebody else's. I've lived in Prospect for 50 plus years. I've always been here my whole life. I've watched this cycle around here more than once. Prospect reevaluated this year. Our mill rate went from 32.14 all the way down to 25.57. And if you just glance, you say, great, taxes went down. And that's not what happened. The rate went down because the assessments went up. That's what a reevaluation does. The rate drops and the value it's charged against climbs. And where you land depends entirely on your house. So when I tell you a town's tax number in a minute, I'll tell you the town reevaluated recently. It's not a technicality. That's me telling you the number is safe to plan around. You won't be there and then all of a sudden get a surprise come July when the bills come out. And there's a second half to this that almost nobody thinks about, which is the low mill rate does not mean low taxes. It never has. The mill rate is only half the equation. The other half is what is the house assessed at. I've seen towns with a mill rate in the low 20s where people are paying more than towns that have mill rates in the 30s because the houses cost so much more that the low rate still lands with a bigger number. The rate is not the bill. The rate times the value is the bill. If you take one thing out of this video and it's not a town name, take that. Don't worry as much about the mill rate as you do the total number. That's why when somebody sends me a listing and asks me if the taxes are good, I can't really answer that from the listing. I have to know when the town reevaluated, what the house is actually assessed at, what it's actually worth today. Those three things in the listing gives you none of them. And hold on to that because it's the whole reason. The third town on this list is the one I would actually buy in today. Everything I just explained about assessment resetting, the town already went through it, and that's the difference maker. And we're getting there. Okay, second town, Harwinton. Harwinton is in Litchfield County. It's tucked between Torrington and Bristol. And I know this area well because we live up there. We have a house up on Banham and Morris, which puts me over that way plenty of times. And Harwinton is genuinely rural. I want to be honest with you about that up front, the same way I'd be honest with you sitting across the table, because there's no point in me selling you a town that you're not going to be happy in. That wouldn't be a good outcome for either of us. You'd be miserable, and I'd be the guy that put you there. You were getting land in Harwinton. You're getting quiet. You're getting stone walls and open space and open roads where you'll go without seeing anybody. You're not getting a downtown with 12 award-winning restaurants. If that's the trade you're willing to make, that's one of the best versions of the trade in the state. The other thing you'll get, the Harwinton Fair, which has been running in the state since 1850 and is one of the oldest agricultural fairs in all of Connecticut. If you want to understand a town, go to the thing that it's been doing for 175 years. It will explain the town to you in one night. The median sales price in Harwinton last year was $439,000. That number has moved, but only 1.4%. So it's basically flat. In a year where Litchfield County as a whole went up almost 10%, 8.1 to be exact, the mill rate here is 23, which is low for Litchfield County and low for the state generally. Your estimated tax bill on a median home price would be $7,068. That's $589 a month. Harwinton reevaluated in 2025. So that number is recent. It's not a stale assessment sitting there waiting for a reset in 18 months. You're buying into a town that already went through the process. Look at what the mill rate did because it tells you the story. Harwinton at 29.2 in 2024, the reval landed and it dropped to 22.9. It ticked up slightly this year to 23. That's a town that reset and held steady. That's exactly the pattern you want to see before you buy in a place. It's predictability with your monthly payment. That's the piece I'd want if I were writing a check, because I've watched people buy in a town with a beautifully low tax bill and then the reveal lands and their escrow goes up $200 a month and they're sitting there wondering what they did wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You just bought at the end of a cycle instead of buying in the beginning of a cycle. Now, the honest case against Harwinton, and I'm going to give it to you because you should hear it, you have to drive for things. You have to go out to get groceries, like out of town. You're going towards Torrington or Bristol. There isn't a train. If you work in New Haven or down in Fairfield County, it's going to be a long day, every day commuting. And I would tell you, you probably want to look somewhere else. But if you work from home or you work up that way already, or you're at a point where the commute isn't a thing organizing your life anymore, Harwinton at $439 and a fresh assessment and a 23 mill rate is one of the better values in Connecticut, and I would buy there without hesitating. I also want to say something about what $439,000 actually buys you up there, because the number by itself doesn't tell you much. It's a lot of the state. In a lot of the state, $439,000 is a house on a small lot with a driveway you can't turn around in. In Harwinton, that same number gets you acreage, real acreage, with room between you and the next house, a yard that's a piece of property instead of a strip of grass. That's the whole trade, laid out plainly. You're buying space and quiet with the money that would have bought you proximity somewhere else. And now neither answer is wrong. They're just different purchases, and you should know which one you're making and which one you want to make. The other thing I would like to point out is that Harwinton is genuinely close to more than it looks like on a map. Torrington is literally right there. Bristol is right there. You might be 40 minutes from Hartford, depending on where you're going to be when you land in Harwinton. It reads as remote, and it really isn't. It's rural, which is different. Rural means space. Remote means distance. Harwinton has one and not the other, and people conflate those two words all the time. That's two. And I've been telling you since the beginning that there's a third one, and this is the one that matters most, and I mean it. Because here's what's different about the third town. Southbury and Harwinton are both inland. Both are towns where you're trading a little more convenience for a lot of value, and that's a good trade, but it's still a trade. The third town doesn't ask you to trade anything. That's why it's the one. And I want to set up what you're about to hear. Because when I tell you the tax number, your first instinct is going to be, I made a mistake or there's some catch. There isn't. I've checked it. I've run it 3 different ways and it holds. Think about what it usually costs to be near the water. Think about what it usually costs to be near the water in Connecticut. Think about what you assume a shoreline town does for your tax bill. Everybody assumes the same thing. And in most of these towns, you'd be exactly right. Now, the thing about this town, it has the water. It has the real town green. It has a train station. It gets you into New Haven. It has the lowest property tax burden of any town in the state that I would actually recommend somebody in your price range. That's what we're walking into. And I've been doing this a long time, long enough to know in this state how rare of a combination that is. And I'd add one more thing before we get there. There's a difference between a town that's cheap and a town that's undervalued, because people mix those things up constantly. Cheap means the market looked at it and priced it accordingly. Undervalued means the market hasn't gotten there yet. Cheap towns typically stay cheap. Undervalued towns do not stay undervalued. And that's the entire reason I want you to know about this one before anybody else does. How do you tell them apart? You look at what the town has that can't be built. A cheap town is usually cheap because there's a reason, and the reason isn't going anywhere. An undervalued town has something real, something you could not reproduce, even if you tried, and the market just hasn't priced it yet. Water is the obvious one. Nobody is making more shoreline. A train line into the city is another one. A town green that's been there for 300 years is a third one. Those things don't get built and they don't go away. When a town has them and the price doesn't reflect them yet, that's not cheap. That's mispricing. And mispricing always gets corrected. That's the whole thesis on this third town. It has the things that can't be built, and it's priced like it doesn't. 2 of the 3 towns in this video went up less than 2% last year, while the state ran well above that. That's not a coincidence. It's not bad news. It is a window. But windows close. That's the nature of a window. The whole reason it's open right now is because most people haven't looked there yet, or they're just overlooking it. So you want to know which town I'd actually put my own money in? One thing, whatever town you pick, before you sign anything, make sure you run the real numbers on it. Make sure you know when the reevaluation was and what your tax bill is going to look like in a couple years. I would love that somebody to be us at Dave Jones Realty. So book a Zoom link, text me. That's my real cell phone number down below. It's in the description. If it's not, just make sure you do it with somebody else. The third one, the one that's on the water, you get the Thimble Islands, you get Stony Creek, a town green that people actually use. Restaurants open in February, not just in July, with a median sales price last year of $403,586, up 1.7%. New Haven County on average moved 5.6%. A mill rate of 21.4 with an estimated tax bill of $6,046, $504 a month tax bill. 1.5% of the purchase price, which is the lowest carrying cost of any town in the state in this price range. And it reevaluated in 2026. So there's nothing coming for you. That town is Branford, and the market has not found it yet. And at $403,000, it's about 10 minutes from not being $400,000 anymore. So if you want the rest of the towns in the state sitting right on the same line, I made a whole video called 7 Connecticut towns under $400,000 that won't stay there. Click here and I'll meet you over there.